The Africa Rising International Film Festival is back to thrill audience. The Social Impact Film Festival was launched 4 years ago and has been promising to leave no storyteller behind. It's set to run for 3 days next week. What can viewers expect from this year's offerings? Well, we're joined in studio by Festival Director Ayanda Sithebe, as well as Lala Tuku. She is the festival chairperson. Thank you so much, the both of you, for coming through. I'm just going to start with you, Lala. You know, for me, when I imagine a film festival for Africans, I always imagine or think about how many times we've complained as Africans about how our stories are told by someone else, someone international, because they happen to have the budget, and they'll just pick one or two of our actors or actresses to feature there, but really it's somebody else telling our stories. So is this something that you're trying to rectify?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, it's the premise of our film festival in terms of really giving us space, really making sure that we can affirm ourselves and our currency, and really making sure that we never should forget that we are enough. Yeah. We are our storytelling is in our DNA, and then if we don't tell our stories, other people will.
And I mean, when you say storytelling is in our DNA, I mean, we remember when we were young with our grandmothers, you'd be sitting there not even knowing that this is something you can make money out of, you know. Yeah. But I want to bring you in, Ayanda, in terms of how difficult it is to break into this industry. You know, some people are sitting on really good work and they don't know where to go. Would this be the platform for them?
Definitely. Kwasuka Sugela, as
yes.
I just remembered that now. I think definitely, and I think like Lala has just mentioned now, the premise of the festival was also to speak to accessibility. I think that's a big thing for us. Also transformation within the industry as well. It's a big conversation that we're having. But our mandate is really making film accessible. We know how expensive it is. And also if it's not introduced at a very young age, it becomes a problem to really appreciate the art behind it. So we are a festival that's really open to young emerging filmmakers, but also the established one, also helping bridging that gap as well, where you can introduce these people. In that, there's skill transfer as well that takes place. So yeah, so definitely open for emerging filmmakers to come showcase their work. And you're right, filmmakers sit on their work for the longest time. And sometimes they don't have money for the marketing or for post and stuff like that. So the festival, through our ARIFF dialogue, we sort of talk about that, the whole value chain of filmmaking, so that filmmakers can start looking at the business of filmmaking as well.
Yeah. Do you guys have, for instance, socio-economic counseling as well, where, you know, some people would say our artists, every time there's something they broke or they don't have life savings, etc. You know, there's a lot of things that are said, especially when someone is just saying to the public, hey guys, I actually don't have money, or someone passes away. Is that also something that you are teaching to the young ones, that, you know, you need to start thinking of like your retirement annuity, etc.?
It's so important because it really talks to the makeup of the industry. And, you know, our industry is about 100 years old, but transformation lags behind. And beyond transformation is also pertinent things. For example, because our work is so seasonal, you know, creatives can't get bonds or buy a car or be on medical aid, you know, consistently because of the way it's actually made up. So what we have to do is then try and deconstruct this industry. But no sole person or entity can do that. So it really then requires a collaborative effort within the stakeholder group in the creative sector. And so those are part of the conversations that we have. And we always say we're a doing festival. So we hold ourselves accountable to say, when we put a spotlight on the African child, what does it mean? And then the business side of film then becomes quite critical for us to panel beat, to engage on, to bring in the stakeholders that would be key to making sure that we can become I always say, a bankable industry. You know, because at the moment it is, I'm as good as my last show. And I've probably got that budget and that income for that time. So the conversations are urgent, the conversations are important, and there are even commercial partners that we can bring on board. So that's really, for the past 5 years, what we've been doing. We've got incredible support from the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. We're having a conversation with a bank. You know, there are things that we are really doing, and hopefully we'll be able to look back and say we were part of really transforming the industry, but from a lived experience, because it is, you know, we've been through it. And really that's why this is such a, we call it a labor of love project.
As artists, you've been fighting for years just to be heard, and I'm happy when you say that, you know, the department is assisting you, at least with this festival, because if you look at how talented Africans are in terms of the arts and telling stories, it really could be an industry that also helps us with unemployment, right? Unemployment rates in the continent, not just here.
You know, there's a study that looks at the number of jobs that this industry, you know, how it contributes to the economy. So at some point we may need to move the arts from just being a social cluster to an economic cluster, because we actually contribute quite immensely to you know, to the economy.
Yeah, into the GDP. And let me also just come back to you in terms of next week. The actual event is the 5th installment. I'm sure you're quite excited. I'm sure you're not as nervous as you were back in 2018 during the first time. So tell me, in terms of the last 2 years where you know, things were difficult because of COVID-19, etc., how you were able to actually do it, and who can come next week? Who, like, can I just pitch up next week?
Definitely. Everyone is welcome to the festival. And I think that's the myth that we want to break as well, that film festivals are just for the filmmakers. I mean, filmmakers create this work, they spend hours and days and months and years on it for the public to sort of see these films. So the public is welcome to really come watch the films. And we're a free festival, so tickets are accessible for free, and that speaks to accessibility as well. So there's a lot really of excitement to expect from the film program side of it. So what we did this year is, like, we took a memory lane back sort of theme or approach, where we're going to be showcasing films that are 7 years and older. And this is one way of just us reflecting in terms of where African cinema has been, but also zoom into where it's going as well. So I'm really excited about that program. But I think to go back to your question, in terms of the last 2 years, I think they've been difficult to every creative out there. The films are limited now in terms of people were not making work because of the lockdown and so forth. But also the positive, it really pushed us to reach a bigger audience as well, in terms of how do we integrate the online aspect of it. So I think there's more to take out of that as well.
I'm just going to give you an opportunity to tell us some of your positive stories, some of the people in the last 4 installments that you've seen soar and succeed, and you're like, I was part of that.
Crazy. I think the first one that we've been talking about is the film called, we opened last year. We Are Dying Here. I opened the festival last year. It's a poetry film, short film. And also, it was the first of opening a film festival with a short film. The film has went on to win a SAFTA for Best Short, and it also has gone into a platform which is Showmax, all because it was showcased at the festival. So there's so many beautiful stories. I mean, one of our flagship project is Film Child, where we take young kids from different communities to watch films for the first time. This year we've partnered with Guguletu Orphanage, so we'll be taking those kids to watch a film at Stekiniko, have a cinema experience, and over the years, every time we see those kids come out of the cinema, and their eyes are just bright, you know. So there's so many wins that we can count. That's quite beautiful. And just lastly, you're a person that someone would recognize because you've been on screen, right? We've seen you even in theatre. I think I've seen you in theatre as well when I would go there. What is your advice to those who are trying to break into the industry, especially in this year, in this age of social media, where we have trolls and people who can literally cause somebody to kill themselves just because they saw you somewhere catching a taxi, and they're expecting that you're so rich because you're on TV? Wow.
So I think first and foremost is see this as a career, and formalize it as much as you can. So study through it. I think because it's such glitz and glam and lights, camera, action, there is a notion that, you know, it's immediate, the fame is immediate, I can get in and you know, it's all about the talent. But, you know, my advice, I always say, make sure that, you know, even if you were a lawyer or a financial, you know, a banker, you would need to make sure that you go right to the top from an education point of view, because what it does, that it solidifies who you are. And then you've got a great sense in terms of really, this is what I'm doing with my career and this is where I'm going. And then obviously, because our career is in the limelight, with so many people commenting and so many people have a right over what it is, and that's why self-affirmation becomes so critical, and understanding and having people that you can always touch base with to go, you know, am I doing the right thing? Because just like everyone, we're all going to start from the bottom. If that's what's going to be. So there's an immediacy thing that what fame gives us, an illusion of, and then now we have to keep up because we've been, you know what I mean? And so it's a career. There's going to be
ups and downs. And that's the stress that it starts to cause. Absolutely. I mean, I was telling a friend of mine that, look, even a person who's a lawyer and is busy doing his articles is in a taxi. But because they're not on screen, they're okay. Right. Thank you to the both of you for coming in, and good luck for next week. That was Ayanda Sithebe. He's the director of the Africa Rising International Film Festival, and Lala Tuku, who is the chairperson. It's happening next week from the 27th of November.